Hi guys, and welcome to another video. This is me leaving Vilcabamba on my way to Jaén, and as you can see at the first stage it was a mix of off-road, on-road. I had drizzly rain and overcast most of the trip, spots of sunshine. The road was very slippery, so there's going to be parts in here where I've actually recorded already, and I'm just going to let you listen to the recording as I was riding. Again, the camera for the most part was okay with the sound, and then for some reason it started getting crackly again, which is just so frustrating, because it would have been nice to just continue having the voiceover. But there are parts of this I'm just going to let roll this trip, including my little accident, which is in the first part of this video. So basically, as you can see, it's pretty miserable riding. And one of my friends, Chris, had ridden this road about a week or 2 weeks earlier in the dry, and he said it was great, and I can imagine it would be so much more fun in the dry. However, there were patches that were just pretty much unrideable at any speed except for waddling, and that was all the red clay areas. So there was parts of the off-roading that was clean, and like with a little bit of rock in it, so it actually easy, and the bike gripped really nicely. But then there are other parts that was just dirt, and with those parts, when it was wet, it was just really hard underneath. And here's one of the river crossings. I got through that one no problems. One of the other ones I stalled the bike trying to get out. I basically waited, and I'll talk about how to do river crossings shortly. But you know, it was pretty and all that sort of stuff, definitely. And there was definitely parts where you have waterfalls coming cascading down the mountains and over the roads. Coming through a little town. Most of the towns had a little bit of paving through the town. There's only about 5 or 6 towns I got through though. There wasn't very many. And again, you don't really know what to expect when you go through a town. Pretty empty. It was pretty early in the morning though. It was about 7 AM at this time. People out and about. Say hello. So there'd be like a little concrete road through the towns. It was a really tough day, about 9 hours of riding for what would normally be about a 4-hour riding day. Just going so slow at places because it was just so slippery with all that gear on. And then with my tyres just could not handle the slippery, because I've got a flat tread. There's no tread in the centre of the rear tyre. The front tyre's fine. But I mean, when you're riding through dirt and that, you want the rear tyre to get most of the grip, and you basically want your front tyre to basically keep it straight and basically bouncing over, just for a little bit of direction, but just bouncing over the dirt, the rock, whatever it is, because you don't really want, just cleaning my lens there, you don't really want your front tyre to wash out, and that's what basically happened. And so this sort of stuff wasn't too bad when it was hard pack and there's a little bit of rock involved. had probably about 15 little bridges like this to cross over. Get a little photo of it. And off you go again. So those are really pretty, and there wasn't, I mean, on this whole trip there wasn't a lot of traffic. There was a car once in a while. Through the towns there was maybe a little bit of activity in and around the towns, but as I said, there was only 5 or 6 towns on the whole trip that I actually went through. So whenever you see this sort of stuff with the rock underneath and underpinning it is good, but as soon as it gets to just clay and then it just gets wet, it's slippery. And like on the trip twice, or one of them I've got on video, twice trucks had just slid down the hill and into the embankment. Not at any speed, but they'd crashed. So it was pretty important for me. The first 30 miles I had a bit of off-road and road, and then after that it's all off-road as you climbed up into the mountains, and it was awesome. It would have been so nice. I mean, I wish I had have ridden this with no clouds and a sunny day, because it would have been spectacular, because it was really high up, really big drop-offs down the sides of the mountain. Even where I crashed was really pretty. Yeah, so there's that picture of that bridge that I took. So normally the towns were paved, and as you can see, I'm coming up, that's a bit of paved with just dirt all over the top of it. And so they'd have those pavers there. They were fine. Those rough pavers are fine. It's the cobblestones that are smooth that are a little bit slippery, especially when you have to go downhill or uphill, and then you tread on your bike. Like, I've got the big Hyder now, K60 Scouts, and they're fantastic bikes for riding, tyres for riding on the road, but they're not so good. Not so good on slippery surface. I remember when I was in Cuenca, in Peru, a little bit further down, and my apartment was right up this massive steep hill, and I had to do twists and turns and go up all these cobblestones, and that was very, very problematic. The bike would just slip and want to go sideways, and then you'd have to get to the top, and you get to the top in a corner, and there'd be cars there, so you'd have to wait for the cars on a huge steep incline, and then try to accelerate up the cobblestone, and it was pretty tough, you know. And the first day I got there, the Google Maps directions was incorrect, so I actually had to go back down the hill and back up another hill to get to where I wanted to get to, which was just not the most fun thing to do. For cars it's fine, but for motorbikes, and especially for my size of tyre, the smaller sizes in the K60 Scout were actually had the tread through the centre line, so there would have been a little bit more grip. Mine didn't. Mine was just smooth through the centre line, which made it pretty difficult. So just taking your time, get through the towns. Don't try to accelerate and be a hero through the towns. It's the only place where the police might be, and local police. Here's another little bridge. As you can see, the views are pretty spectacular. I just wish it had been a sunny day. There's a couple of times on my trip I had overcast days, and one or two days in Patagonia, out of the many. I was very lucky other than that, but 1 or 2 days in Patagonia, it was pretty slippery. Pretty overcast, so I couldn't actually see much, and I knew that there was big mountains around. But you just gotta roll with it, you know. it's really good fun riding though, I've got to say, you know. But having all this part was the last sort of part before the off-roading, and it was on and off road, dirt road, little bridges. All this stuff is fine to ride on. It's a little bit rough, but you've got grip, you know. And some tarmac, and then dirt and rocks, and it was just all over the place as far as the types of terrain you're riding on. At this stage, I was really hopeful that it would start to clear, and it did. The rain ended up stopping, and that was a pretty good thing. Another thing you've got to be careful about is all that wash on the road, because there's a lot of mud and dirt, and it gets a little bit slippery. The secret is to keep your bike as upright as possible, rather than leaning the bike too much, you know. And you'll see that there'll be some rock slides and stuff like that all along the way. Just a bit of dirt, as you can see there. You wouldn't want to be around when that stuff hits you. But they do have little crews that sort of, just one crew that just drives up and down each day. He's going through another little town. A local bus service. That's one thing I didn't want to encounter along the way, but everyone seemed to be going pretty slow on this road. But geez, it would have been nice riding this in dry. I actually, looking at some of the places along the way that were up on the right side of on the incline up the mountain, and looking at the tracks they had up there, I was thinking, how did they get a motorbike up there? Because most people do ride motorbikes here. So all the way along, it was just always looking at lines to follow when you got on the slippery stuff, trying to keep out of the real slippery, muddy clay. And I could ride on this stuff all day long. But the big problem was any of the hairpins or big turns, they were usually churned up really badly with mud. The slight turns not so bad, but the big turns, that's where trucks are digging in and spitting out dirt and mud. And see these sort of turns here, that's only a mild turn, but at the same time it still can be problematic. So during this video, this is a border crossing video, and during this video I'll talk about the border crossing towards the end when we get to the border crossing, and obviously on the website I've got all the details of that border crossing. It was my best border crossing of the whole trip, by a long stretch. There was no one there. I was the only traveller going in and out of there was quite a few locals at the border just hanging around, and this stuff, I hated this stuff. This stuff was just slippery as all hell. And any sort of sudden movement, you're gonna come over. The tyre was just gonna wash out. The rear tyre didn't want to grip. Yeah. So you just have to sort of take your time through all those things. I mean, some of them I just had to waddle through. I couldn't. And that's waddling means basically, getting your feet either side, putting it in first gear, just getting your feet either side and just slowly accelerating through it. There was one where a truck had crashed, and thanks for just giving me hardly any room of the road. So this is actually the real-time speed of actually going through this stuff. Get into a straight, you can accelerate a little bit. But whenever it's slippery like this, just look how smooth and wet it is. It's just really, really tough. And it's basically all about getting to the other side, And these big drop-offs on the left-hand side were astronomical drop-offs, Sorry about the wind noise, but just giving you a bit of a feel. So the shaking of the bike is the corrugation in the road. whenever I came to a corner, I was like slowing right down, giving it a bit of a straight patch. This stuff here is really slippery. And it's just about taking up, using all of the road, just picking a line each time, and trying to not get stuck in the ruts. Ruts are the tracks left by trucks and cars. And if you do get stuck in the rut, you've got to ride the rut out. You can't try and get out of it. Whenever it was hard like this, it wasn't too bad. But then you'd have, like around the corners and all that sort of stuff, you'd have a lot more slippery stuff. There's a big drop down there. Riding a big bike is a lot different than riding a smaller bike, and obviously a lot different than riding an off-road bike. I think I passed one rider around an off-road bike and he was going probably 10 mile an hour, 15 mile an hour faster, which makes a big difference over the long run, but obviously he can't carry much on his bike. So this next 10-20 miles is probably the worst of the trip for me. Just getting all the wet, just slippery clay bits. The bike just wanted to, just trying to keep the steering straight, so not making any big sudden movements with the front tyre, and just sort of leaning back a little bit and transferring a lot of the weight to the rear, so that the front tyre is not pushing in or digging in.
It's just the slippery stuff. Pretty big drop down there too, sort of say.
Doing about 30 kilometres, 35 kilometres an hour. Okay, maybe I can see on the screen what I'm doing. 42 kilometres an hour. So about 30 miles, not even 30 miles an hour. So that's how slow you're going through this. If it was dry, you'd probably be doing 50, 55. You wouldn't want to be going much faster than that, especially because you just don't know what's around the corner in some cases. This is the stuff I hated, this stuff. In other cases, in some cases you could actually see all the way for the next, half a mile of cars, whether they're coming or not, because you had a clear view. But with all the cloud cover, you just never knew what was around the corner. I had another couple of river crossings to do, and a couple of little ones that were just because of the rain. They were crossing the road. Sorry. Have a little bit of a break here. It's like a micro break. So you just saw me swerve to avoid that little slippery patch. The corrugated stuff, you get a lot of that further south in Chile and Argentina, and it's really hard on the body after a long day of just going through mile after mile of the corrugated, which is just a little dents in the road that just bang the bike up. And that's why you check your bike every single day. you check your bike for the bolts, making sure they're tight. I lost one bolt in Bolivia. One of the bolts came loose. I think and a couple of other ones I found that were loose, and I just tightened them up. Slippery. If I was going to be doing a long trip with this sort of stuff everywhere, I wouldn't probably use these tyres. If I was doing a long off-road trip, on pavement, this would be the only tyre I'd ever choose. Slippery there too. I think I'm coming up to my little spill, and the reason for it was just simple. I got stuck in a bit of a rut. It was in the really slippery red clay, and the front tyre just washed out. It was probably my fault. Here's another little rip. This one stalled here. I'll stall again, I think, one more time. Yeah, so with these sort of river crossings, and you don't know, I've got waterproof boots, so I walked through it just beforehand, just to make sure there wasn't one big deep drop in there, because you don't want to be dropping the bike in the water on your own. That was one of the towns earlier. Or dirt, just someone wandering in the middle of nowhere. Cars and everything are going so slow along here, so you never really have to worry too much. That stuff, I hated that. It was so... You just want to keep the bike straight as possible, because any sort of sudden movement, and then coming around these corners was problematic as well. Look at this stuff, I hated it. It was really, really slippery. That red clay. Your bike just wanted to lose it. You know, even just going through that, I could feel the rear tyre just slipping sideways, just slightly, but it's a little bit unnerving. The big deep corners were always my biggest issue with the clay, and just thinking, well, if there's a car coming as well, I've got to be able to brake and get out the way. I probably saw about 50 cars on the actual roads. In the towns there was more, but there was just hardly any cars. This sort of stuff, going around these corners, take it wide, get out of that clay. It was a real struggle the whole time. Here's the accident here. Watch my front tyre as I get caught in a rut and then just washed out.
Shit. Fucking hell.
So the first thing I did was turn the bike off, and then the next thing that I do is I turn the camera off here too. But the next thing, I took my helmet off. But the next thing I did was I basically cleared the bike from the road. I removed all the gear. I should have videoed it. I should never have not videoed that. But removed all my gear, and then removed all my gear from the bike, and then picked the bike up, just set it up on the side of the road, and then just slowly put the gear back together again. Put the gear back on, the good thing about my side cases, they just clicked out, and I don't know whether it's a design feature, but they didn't break. They just clicked out. Now, if I had third-party stuff, slippery again. If I had third-party stuff attached to my bike with the normal side cases, all those little bars, they would have all been bent out of shape and stuff like that. Even on a little crash like that, that was a wrong move. That one, that should have gone wide. Then ripped through there. But yeah, but they just clipped out. I put them all back on. I took probably about 30 minutes all up. Just took my time. This is one of the trucks that was in front of me that just kept sliding down the hill and just went straight across the road. He couldn't get out of there. And he just sort of went into the embankment. Didn't hit it hard, but they said they were fine. This was really, you know, there was quite a few of these little corners that were just, I've just got my feet on the ground here, just accelerating. As soon as I accelerate, the bike wants to give out a bit, so you can feel it. You've got to keep the front steering wheel straight, the front tyre straight, just sort of waddle your way out of it. Any acceleration or any sudden acceleration or deceleration, the bike's going to tip or slide, and you're going to get yourself in trouble. But as I got further into towards Peru, the roads became a little bit better, I have to say, and I was able to pick up a bit of speed.
Red clay, jeez.
So here I go again. Just everywhere, and you just got to keep the bike straight, which means you have to go across the road a few times to slide. Some taxis, so well, they're not taxis, actually they're work trucks. So they might be coming to help because the guys said they were fine. But yeah. So the first thing you do with your when you have an accident is basically turn your bike off, obviously. And then the second thing you do is clear the bike from the road. So make sure there's no fuel leaking anywhere. You can usually smell it if there is. And then just do a little check over the bike that nothing's been bent out of shape. I've got the protection bars, but even then you don't know if there's a rock on the road that's as you fall and it's sort of jumped in and punctured something or damaged something. So you've just got to. And then once you've got all the gear off the bike, that's when you pick it up. Don't try. You can pick it up with all the gear on. I did it once before, but it is just a lot heavier. And I just wanted the first thing. There was already 2 cases that clipped off my bike as I crashed, and so I only had 1 case to take off. So I took that case off, and that was on the far side, so it wasn't up a lot leaning against the road. The one that on the right side clipped off, and my top case, my back case. Clipped off as well. No damage to the cases or where they attached to the bike, which was really helpful. If anything had happened there, so I hope it was a design feature because it's a pretty clever. Once there's a certain amount of force, they'll just clip out. It'd be a pretty clever design feature. So I think I'm coming into another little town now. Another bridge. A lot of them were wooden bridges with a little bit of bitumen over the top of them. Lots of rivers and water flowing, and some of them went underneath the road. They had little pipes going under. The waterfall was just cascading down beside the road and then filtering under. And I imagine they wash out over when they get real heavy rain. Pretty much deserted towns, most of them. You know, I mean, local farmers, maybe just doing local work. Who knows? But wasn't a lot of people around. And just on the road again. It's pretty rough. You'll find that around a lot of the towns, the the roads are pretty rough. You know, these are sort of all the forgotten areas of countries where the government doesn't really put any money into it. There's no votes in it. Probably doesn't mean anything if they lose. You can guarantee if that town was a voting town that could sway any type of election, there'd be beautiful roads and community centres, and you know, everything would be funded. You know. God, I hated this clay. Just absolutely hated it. As you can see from my accident, it doesn't take much to come off, you know, and to lose your grip and all that. So it just takes a minimal of effort to just the smallest mistake, and you can easily come off. The one thing that amazes me about these communities is just how far they are from actually any sort of civilised, like, you know, there's a bit of an issue there, getting around the corner. How this stuff here, you can ride this all day long when it's rough, but then you get into this clay stuff, and or you get stuck in a track which is a previous indentation of the road from other cars, and that's an issue you can come to with river crossings. If the water is fairly deep, then you've just got to wait for a car to go through and just see how the car behaves as it goes through the water, and then follow the line of the car. Usually you can see how the cars enter, but you just don't want to, on a bike, you don't want to come across a big rock under the water and either stall or drop your bike in the water, because you're basically going to have to pick it up in the water, and you're going to get wet. And if it's in this, you know, the water could be pretty cold and stuff like that, and would end up being a pretty miserable day. If that ever does happen, where you do get wet, then the smart thing to do is to get a fresh pair of socks on, ride for about 30 minutes and get the water out of the boots as much as you can. And even take a break and put the boots upside down, get a bit of air in them, and then get a fresh pair of socks on. So I always had an extra pair in the backpack as well of socks. People living remotely, you know, they've got a long way to get any goods and, you know, obviously services. There is power to all these places. All the towns, there's power, they have to be pretty self-sufficient. I mean, it's a good 1 or 2 hours drive just to get some groceries, and you know, like I'm sure they probably store their own gas and stuff like that as well. So local swimming baths. I don't know, they look pretty murky, the water. I mean, typical towns, they'd have local stores, a little bit of street food. There's always mechanics in the town because, you know, people rely on those. A little bit of a wrong way there, turn. But as you can see, the pavements through the town are easy to ride on. And then once you exit the town, you're back on the dirt again. There's one of the roads I rode down south was Route 7, and it was pretty good off-roading. Not like this, where there wasn't much clay and dirt and mud. It was all rock and pretty hard in a lot of places. But that's all being redone, so that'll all be pretty much finished in the next 12 to 18 months. So the group of riders that I rode with, or who were coming down with me for the next year or so, will be the last to ride that off-road. It was just sensational off-roading. The issue I see with having it paved is what happens in the end is if it's paved, a lot more people will drive the roads, which makes it not so remote. So probably good for local towns and stuff like that. But yeah. I know this is a long video, but I just wanted to give you guys a feel of what it was like to ride through the mountains and, you know, on these single lane off-roading, and so much fun. And even though I had the spill, the little accident, I really enjoyed it. And when you finish a day of riding like this, you really, you know, you feel really satisfied that you've done some hard work, you know. The two types of riding that I've got to get a lot better at are the off-roading in wet, and I think it had a fair bit to do with my tyres. Like, they just weren't suited to it, suited to riding. But it just comes down to practice. I'm sure an experienced rider probably wouldn't have had a really experienced off-roader wouldn't have had the same issues I had even with these tyres, and also would get out of that clay. This is a lot steeper than what it looks, and that's why I sort of stopped before I went up there. I wanted to get my line, and you've got to do that a lot on this trip, especially when I had to do some sand. So the slippery clay with the hard top, and you know, clay's not so bad if there's grip underneath, but if it's just slipping underneath, it's hard. And the other type was just sand. Sand is just, even for an experienced rider, I imagine it's friggin' hard yakka. Because you've got to keep the revs up, you know, going faster. I mean, some riders say, oh, you know, with the slippery stuff, you just got to go faster. That's bullshit. It all comes down to, do you want to get there? Now, if I had have gone faster with my skill level through a lot of these places, I would have probably fallen 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It's just what was happening, you know. And you know, even on some of the steep inclines, when I was just riding the bike would just slip and just not want to accelerate through it. So it's just the way. You just got to get there, you know. That's the whole thing for me when you're doing off-roading, is get there in one piece. Even driving on the roads is getting there in one piece. You know, I had a couple of adventure riders just whiz past me and overtaking on corners and stuff like that. I thought, you know, the 999 time rule there, 999 times you get away with it, and one time you're dead. And when you get dead, it's very hard to get alive again, you know. So, and mine is a big bike with a lot of weight on it. There's a guy riding his bicycle, had a bit of a wave. I actually stopped a bit further ahead and about another 10 miles ahead, I stopped for a bite to eat on the side of the road and a bit of a rest, and he came past. I ended up taking about a 30 minute break, something like that, and he came past just as I was about to leave. Just had a quick chat. The German guy, riding the world, he was. If you met a few bicyclists who were actually riding the world, and it was taking like 3 years off, 4 years off just to ride around the world. Pretty impressive. Crazy though, just madness. You don't get anywhere, but you do see a lot more of the world. You know, the slower you go, the more you see. And you know, those guys do a lot of camping, a lot of hostels. They stay in some pretty rough places, but they don't care, and they don't. If you don't need to be connected to the internet, then I can tell you it's a lot lighter load. And if you don't need to camp, it's a lot lighter load as well. You know, if I was just bringing clothes with me and just my tools, I wouldn't have needed any extra cases or anything, extra bags or anything. You know, in fact, I wouldn't have even filled 2 cases up. My tools take up 1 case. And that's just some WD-40s, extra engine oil, extra coolant, and some brake fluid, and hydraulic clutch fluid. No, they're only small little containers. Those 2 things, the clutch and the the brake fluid. But coming up, I'm going to just let the microphone and what I was talking about just say everything, and I'm just going to remain silent through those sort of things. There's patches where I don't say anything at all, but I'll just leave that go so you can actually see more of what I was doing. And then I'll start talking again once we get to the border, and I'll talk about the border crossings and stuff like that. But the dryer, once I got through probably the last hour on the off-roading, because I did about 150, 200 miles, about 150 miles off-road, maybe not even that, maybe 120 miles, but that's a lot of off-road, especially in this stuff. It was slow going, but it was really rewarding. So feel like when I was coming through here, I remember thinking, oh, it's going to get drier, and then I get to the corner and it'll be wet again, and I think, oh, damn it. So every now and then you got your hopes up that you were going to go through some dry stuff, and then you just keep getting all these big patches of wet. So it obviously had rained everywhere for a little while. Yeah, I mean, people drop the bikes all the time. I mean, it's not like I'm unique in that regard. I met one guy who dropped his bike like, he reckons 20 times, but he reckons most of his dropping his bike was getting on the bike. Most of the times he dropped the bike was getting on and off the bike. And those are the people who put their foot through. So there's a little gap between the seat and their back luggage, and so they standing start, they put their right leg through and over the top of the bike and the other side. The problem with that is it's a stretch for anybody, and if you clip the bike with your foot, because you're launching from the side where the kickstand is down, if you put your foot clips the seat and pushes the bike even 2 inches one way, the bike's just going to tip over, because it's not as if when the kickstand down, the bike is just leaning one way a long way. You know, with my bike, when I put the kickstand down on a flat surface, I'd only have to push it a couple of inches one way, and the bike would tip over the other way. So it is a little bit precarious getting on and off a bike that way. My way of getting on and off the bike, I'm a big guy. I'm well over 6 foot. I was over 6 foot, and my way was to put my left foot on I've got the reinforced pegs, put my left foot on the peg, and then just lift myself up over the bike. I lift my right leg up over the top of the case, or behind the case, and over the top of the luggage, and just over the other side. Easiest way to get on and off a bike. Sometimes you can't do it depending on where you're situated. There's a lot of the time where I was actually standing up on the bike on this trip as well, and that's pretty tiring too, standing on your pegs. But on the dry stuff where it's nice and hard and all that, it's the best way to do it. As soon as you get to the wet clay stuff, I'll be down on my backside here. See, I've sat down again. And some people will argue that you should still be standing up there. You have got a lot more control when you're standing, and it doesn't feel as nervy when you're standing as well. You feel like there's a lot more control, but through the stuff where you might have to put your feet down, you're better off sitting down. Coming through another town here. I stopped off in one of these towns, but they're pretty deserted, so there wasn't really any food to eat. But there was one town that had a little barbecue going, and I just got a little bit of a bite to eat and kept going. You can see the pavers again. Pretty deserted again, this town. Still early in the morning, early bells. Just checking I'm going in the right direction. As you can see from the GPS, I'm just zigzagging everywhere. So yeah, I was just basically with it. I was just going on whatever side of the road or whatever direct line I could take that had the least amount of clay on it. Sometimes in the corners I didn't really have much of a choice. It's a bit slippery there. This is after the spill, so I was a little bit more hesitant with certain things, not going anywhere near as fast and just taking my time, just said to myself, like, just get there, don't try to be a hero. And the thing was, just before that crash, I was getting a lot more confident, with the slippery stuff. I was just keeping the bike straight and felt like I had a lot more control. It's beautiful riding though. If this was dry, I could just keep going all day long. It's just so much fun. It just would have been more fun without the wet weather. You get this a fair bit too, where you got cows. Usually there's someone with them. You just take your time. A little wave. Some rocks on the road. That's another thing too about off-roading is it drains your arms get a bit tired, your legs get a bit tired from standing on the pegs, and also your mind, your concentration, you get pretty tired, just a little bit exhausted with using the old brain grapes, So it ends up being quite a taxing day, and like when I got into Jaén. I'll talk about it. Well, I went into the city, and then when I got to the hotel, because I hadn't booked a hotel because I didn't know how far I'd get, so I looked for a hotel, found a hotel, and then one of the people who was just sitting in the lobby, someone who knew someone at the front desk, said he could take me on a little bit of a tour of the city, and I thought, oh, why not? So I unpacked my bike, got all my gear up, charged it all, and then I went for a couple of hours with him and looked around, but I was just exhausted, and ended up coming back to the hotel, and outside the hotel there was some street food. Got my street food, got it in my gut, and then basically went inside, did some work, and then I fell asleep. I think at about 11 PM I'd fallen asleep, and I slept all the way through to early bells, and got on the road again. Good riding. This block cleared up a fair bit. The sky was a fair bit brighter, and this hard stuff is easy to ride. Still got to take your time, but it's easy to ride. There's another river crossing. So park the bike. This is just a little shot I did. I mean, it's a bit of a wanky sort of thing that you set the bike up, and then set the video up and then go. I only did it a couple of times. It just felt unnatural. And I think I get a military checkpoint up ahead. I don't know why it's there, but it's there. And just had to park the bike. He wanted to see my passport and import permit. Sorry about the noise, but there's some idiot blowing leaves off a road. It's not needed. So yeah, here's the checkpoint. Just parked the bike. He asked me for my passport and documents. I just said, can I park the bike? And then he asked me if my camera was on. I parked the bike over there, turned the camera off. So I parked the bike and then showed him my documents, and then I was right to go again. I didn't know which way to go actually when I left, but he pointed me in the right direction. A lot better roads here, as you can see. Nowhere near as wet. Great views. Easy riding. And I was getting closer to the border now, like I was maybe 15-20 minutes away from the border. I was thinking that the clay is ended, but I think I had a couple more patches up ahead. This is probably only my second really big long day of off-roading. Maybe the third actually. I did some little excursions off the road and stuff like that on my way down, and little 15 to 20 mile stretches, but none with so much off-roading. Still bits of clay. These big long straights were easy to ride. Big church here up onto the left side. Slow right down. I took a photo here. And off you go again. A pretty small town. And everyone could see that I'd, because one side of my body would have had dirt all over it. So anyone could tell that I'd had a spill. Sorry about the wind noise. One thing I've noticed here is that the GPS, the Garmin 590L, just shows nothing. It doesn't even show a road. Just feels drier now, and you get a bit more confidence in being able to go a little bit quicker, not too much quicker. You've got to be wary of all the corners, because that's where you get all that mud and stuff. But there was one stage up further where I was getting really close to the border, where you could just see all the way down below, because the border was in a Balza was in a valley, and the road, you could see the road where I was riding just zigzagging down the mountain below me. It was pretty awesome. Again, video doesn't really capture that anywhere near as well as you wish it would, you know. Get out of those tracks. I was thinking afterwards that if I had that mud all the way, I probably would have only gotten about 100 miles in the whole day, you know, because it was just through that mud was like 20 kilometres an hour, 15, 16 miles an hour, 10, 16 miles an hour, which is bloody slow. Lots of farmland and all different types of plantations. A lot of it fairly barren as well. Pretty cool mountain ranges though. Yeah, so on a long journey like this, you want to pack yourself, you want to have plenty of water on board, and you want to pack yourself some little snacks along the way. You never know what's going to happen, and smart money suggests that you've got enough on board to survive a couple of days in case something goes wrong. Even if something went wrong here, someone would have helped you. The people are so friendly in all these countries, and they just want to help you, you know. And a lot of the time, I'm not being mean or anything, but they don't have much else to do. You know, they're either working on the farm or just hanging around. And that's why I said in my previous video, the next trip I take, I'm going to make up some mini postcards with little thank you postcards to all the people that help you along the way. You have got to be a little bit careful of local riders. If it's a tourist, they'll usually go fairly slow. But locals seem to think there's no one else on the road, so sometimes you can come to a corner and they're whizzing around pretty quick, you know. I was still up very high here though. I knew I still had to climb down, and I kept getting close to the border. I'm thinking sometime I've got to start going down, because I knew the border was in the valley, and I eventually did start going down, but it's a bit tricky there. But it wasn't until I was only a few miles from the border that you just started going really steep downhill. Beautiful scenery.
Thank you.
You can see the road down there below. Here's just some little snaps from along the journey. Pretty awesome. This is towards the end, that was on that little ride that I did.
Okay guys, so
Getting towards the border.
I'm getting towards the border. I can see
the river now.
I can see the river now.
I've had one spill.
I've had one spill. The red clay just got the better of me.
Perhaps a little bit more.
Perhaps a little bit more
concentration
concentration from myself.
I wouldn't have had that spill.
I wouldn't have had that spill.
All up it's taken about
5 hours, 5.5 hours
to go
about 140 kilometres. So I'm just taking it real easy now. It's not as slippery here. There are a few little spots here and there, but God, it's been good fun. It's been tough though. I mean, for 2 or 3 hours of this I've been on the pegs, and having a nice little sit down now as we come in to the border. Hopefully I'll get through the border nice and quick. It's midday, 5 hours and 45 minutes. Probably take me, I've probably had breaks for about an hour and a half because of half an hour for the thing, and I've had about 4 or 5 breaks as well. Because it's so difficult, you know, your hands and your neck and back. But so much fun, so much fun. It's a rough road, I've got to say. There was one section there, it was just all red clay downhill, steep as all hell, and holding the bike together and keeping it from not just sliding was friggin' hard. It took every bit of skill I have, and I don't have a lot, to keep it together, but my back brake's it's taken a bit of a beating. I need to get that replaced in Lima anyway, but yeah, it looks like the border down the bottom there, and then it's pavement apparently. Hopefully I can actually make some miles. I've done as much as I do in 5 hours, usually do in 2 hours, you know. But it's been an adventure, and now with the clouds lifted, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if you can see as well as what I can see. Looks like I've got some pretty steep climbing once you get into Peru. You've got a steep descent down there too. Haven't seen that many cars. Look at the road in Peru. Thank you very much. It's going to be nice to actually just start leaning into some corners and relaxing a little bit. I don't know where I'm still going to stay though, because it'll depend on how long this border crossing takes, but I figure I've got about 4 hours. If I can get through this border in an hour and a half, 2 hours, then I've got 4 hours to work out where I want to get to. I might go to Jaén, not sure yet. I've got to sort this border crossing out. I had to stop before with the military, check my passport. Yeah, that's the only bit of military I saw, and a lot of people have told me this is a major sort of drug run, so I'm just got to concentrate on this final push down. Hopefully it's not too difficult. Where is the bridge? Down the hard stuff. Oh, jingos. In the middle here is a little bit of more traction. This is a terrible. I mean, this is a highway. It's one of the 4 highways that get you to Peru. I think it's 4. Just gonna edge my way around here. Oh shit! It's soft there. So for a guy who's a relative, you know, inexperienced, this is a big challenge. And I had a river crossing, stalled the bike twice. It was about a 20-metre crossing across water and rock. Didn't tip or anything. I just didn't have enough juice in it. Probably a little bit hesitant after my fall. Dust there. All up.
This is the border crossing to get myself out of Ecuador. On the left hand side you can see the aduana. Just next to it is the immigration. This guy ran ahead and helped me out. And then straight ahead is there's a bridge there, and then that's to get into Peru. So Ecuador, out of Ecuador, only took me 10 minutes. It was great. A couple of military guys come up and help me out. And then I'm on my way again. there.
Bye-bye.
Open the boom gate for me. And then up ahead here, what you do is you park on the left-hand side, right at the end of the bridge. There's a building on the left, which is immigration at Yangana, and then straight ahead is where you've got to get your photocopies. Right straight ahead, you'll see the building straight ahead. On the left side is the, you can see there's a building on the left here, and that's for immigration at Yangana. A small building, but there was no, I was the only one there. So it was all cool. Some locals started mulling around all over my bike, and people were jumping on. I let people take photos on my bike and stuff like that. All very cool. There's like about 10, 15 different people that wanted to sit on my bike and get their photo taken, so I let them all do it. Some families, mums, kids, all that sort of stuff. I mean, this total border crossing was, the guy actually screwed up my, when he was entering the computer, because I'm Australian but my bike is US, he put the bike as being Australian, and then he had to do it. So it would have only taken me 15 minutes to leave here if he hadn't have done that. He had to redo it again. Sorry about my heavy breathing. Takes a bit of effort to get on this bike. Get all the gear on. Open the gate for me. Wait for the people to get their photo taken.
Up. Okay.
Just want to work out how to get out. The immigration guy's coming over to do it. He was a nice guy.
Muchas gracias.
I think I'm missing gear here.
Okay, so that took about 40 minutes, and it would have taken less if, sorry, that took 40 minutes and it would have taken way less, but the guy put my motorcycle as being Australian, so he had to redo the whole thing. But it would have been 30 minutes. The best crossing ever. Thank you, Peru. That was just awesome. So basically, get in there in Ecuador side, which is really easy to get out of. Big smile of the policeman who does the immigration stuff for you. Then big smile for the aduana guy, the customs guy, who stamps you out. Then across to thank you for, oh look at that, ouch. Then across to across the border to Peru. Oh shit, that didn't do my tyre any good. Across the border to Peru, go to immigration, 5 minutes, get a tourist card as well as your passport stamped. Then go to the aduana. That's the only thing that took 30 minutes. The rest of everything was over and done with within 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Oh, I'm so happy. Now I'm going to probably stay in Jaén now, which is a lot further than I was told I'd get. But we'll have to wait and see. I'll just take it easy still. Don't get too carried away. I've got a lot of riding to do still. But oh, that made me very happy. Just a beautiful border crossing. So simple, computerized. Okay, there was no one else there, which I was the only one in every single place, which makes all the difference, and that's probably the reason why you go to remote borders. Obviously, if there's a lot of people around, it's no good. But I'm in Peru. My God, I mean, I never dreamed of being in Peru. I never thought of ever coming to Peru until I got back into the motorcycle riding and adventure riding, and then I started mapping it out, and then I watched other people's riding in Peru, and geez, the roads are nice. And you know, mapped out where I wanted to go. I've got a fair way to travel in Peru. It's a pretty big country compared to the others. It's only about the size of one Australian state, but that's still pretty big. So, but that, my friends, I hope I got some good footage. I try to keep the camera around. I didn't want to make it too obvious. But that was the easiest border crossing I have had so far. Obviously, we've had, like, the last 3 days has been quite a lot of rain, and I'm pretty sure it's played a bit of havoc on the roads. Hello, donkeys. Yeah, so a lot of people come down from their homes and grab their donkey and go into town and get whatever they need to get. But I got a full tank of gas, and I mean, if that guy hadn't have screwed up the import document, I would have broken 30 minutes. I was so spewing, you know, because I was at that stage. By the time I got to him, it was like I'd been doing the whole process for about 15 minutes. Everyone was super friendly. The people, I mean, there was all these people getting on my motorbike and taking photos. I came out and helped them and said, yeah, it's no worries. And kids and mums and grandmas. I mean, I have not had a better welcome to any country than Peru. It's just beautiful, beautiful people so far. I mean, there's beautiful people everywhere. I've been to well over 100 countries now, and there's never been a time where I'd say, oh, the people in that country suck, you know. Because it never happens. Never happens. And it's quite warm now too. Once I came down from the mountain, you know, it's high 20s, which I'm sweating buckets. I mean, I sweat buckets anyway. I mean, it only has to be 20 degrees or about 60, 65, and I'm sweating, especially with this jacket and all this crap on. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm supposed to get insurance in San Ignacio, but I'm going to get it in Jaén. I'm going to go to Jaén now, I think. This is the first town in I should take a photo of this sign. This is the first town in Peru for me, and as with all towns in South America, the road sort of ends then, but this is not. No, pretty little town. I feel like I'm going the wrong way, but I'm pretty sure it'll be two-way street. I'm supposed to turn left at some stage here, but this is better than, I suppose I should have a look on the left side. Yeah, I can go this way. Because the main street will be where all the shops are, I imagine. Oh, some drainage. Peru is so far, I mean, it's the first town, but if I looked at the last 30 towns I went through, it was a lot more advanced than the Ecuadorian side. Little kitty on a donkey, getting distance, get a photo. They look like hard people, all these people, but they're always so friendly. And everyone waving. I'm a local hero. Yolti, as Brian Plumridge would say. Brian Plumridge was a coach of mine in junior cricket. I got selected for, I can't remember, it was a representative side to get selected for the Victorian team. And Brian Plumridge was a coach. He was like always a positive guy, you know, always, you know, he's the sort of coach that you want as an adult footballer, to be honest. Oh, where the freaking hell am I going? I've got to go back. I've been wandering around a bit too much. Maybe can I get up there? No. Can I? I'll give it a go. It's got to go somewhere. I think this is the main road. Yep. Yeah, Brian Plumridge was a coach I had in juniors, under 12s, under 14s. Yeah, and we used to go to the footy every Saturday. Australian football, Australian rules footy, AFL, MCG, every other game we'd be there whenever Richmond were playing at home, and we'd all sit together, Brian Plumridge, Lydio, Richie, my dad's twin brother, and it was great, you know, pie, meat pie, bag of chips. No, I don't think we ever had chips. Meat pie and a can of Coke or something, can of Fanta. Yeah, but he was a really positive guy. He's still around, he's still going strong. I'll me and him have a few little chats on Facebook, but yeah, he used to always say Yolti. There you go. Now that one, that's gonna hurt, and that's dead everywhere. Seems like this must have all just happened in the last few days with all the rain that we had. But my gosh, it's just as beautiful as Ecuador, and that's pretty hard to top. Colombia, the mountains started getting bigger and bigger. Ecuador, they got to be some ridiculous heights and some amazingly beautiful mountains. And Peru, starting out the same as Ecuador, finished. My only problem with Ecuador was not Ecuador's fault, well, apart from getting into Ecuador, which was the worst experience I've ever had. But I didn't get that many nice days there. So, you know, out of the 10 or so days I spent in 15 days or whatever I spent in Ecuador, I got maybe 2 or 3 days of sun. A lot of rain. It is their rainy season though. So I've only got about another day or day and a half of riding in these sort of mountain ranges, and then we get to the bare mountains and the deserts and the volcanoes in Peru and south of Peru. It's quite warm now though. be careful with all these freaking rocks on the road. Last time I felt this good, I hit the Ecuador border to Colombia, Ecuador, and then I was in a shitty mood for about an hour after that. So hopefully there's no landslides that have crossed off the road. So anyway, check back later. How friendly are these people here in Peru? It's crazy, every town I go past. Some people just, Ecuador, they just stared at you, like it was a bit weird. But Peru, they're out there with their hands out waving. I'm loving it. Smile. English? No? No English? I got some lollies, that's all. Hey! Oh God! That's it. Oh, muchas gracias. Thank you. Thank you. Good stuff, guys. Good. That was cool, eh? Now I'd get stopped in every town if they had a little performance like that. That's freaking awesome. That was freaking awesome. Okay.
So there you have it. I'm now getting closer to Jaén, where I found a place to stay. Decent sort of hotel, terrible Wi-Fi, but I was only there for one night. The roads for the most part were good. There was a lot of rock falls along the way, so I had to be a little bit careful, especially going around corners. But beautiful scenery. Sorry, another garbage truck coming out the side. But a great ride day and a lot of fun. I'm going to stop the video while it's a garbage truck. But all in all, a really, really good ride day. Had a lot of fun and had my little spill, but you know, the people in Peru so friendly, all really smiling and happy, and that little roadside stop in the middle of the town, yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, I'm sure some people will get annoyed with that, but look at the weather now. Great weather. Roads nice. Everything going well. Big rivers on the left hand side there. And able to get quite a few miles in my belt. I actually got to Jaén around 3 p.m, so which was really good. Gave me a bit of a chance to look around and find a place to stay. Pretty bustling little town. Always got to be careful of those rocks scattered all over the place. Right down in the valleys now. Lots of farmland, rice fields, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It was a beautiful ride into Jaén. The city was really bustling city, lots of motorbikes everywhere, cars and stuff like that. But it was good fun. I know this is a long video, but I just wanted to include a lot of it because it was my second or third, big sort of off-road adventure day. So I thought I'd just include it all, and you know, you can watch whatever parts of it you want. But a good day's riding, and had a lot of fun. Was able to get a good rest in Jaén, and get myself ready for the following trip. I didn't get to see too much. I had a guy take me on a bit of a tour of Jaén and around the town, and then show me some good spots to get some shopping done. And so I was, you know, that only took a couple of hours, and I was back to the hotel, and for a sleep, you know. So it was pretty good. I was going to spend a night in Trujillo after Jaén, and then on to Lima, where I'd spend a few nights in Lima, about 4 or 5 nights in Lima. Had to do some work and look around for someone to have a look at some things with my bike, maybe change my rear pads on my brakes. So I had a fair bit to do, and it was a really great adventure day for me. I really enjoyed it, and I was looking forward to more of it. Friggin' speed humps in the middle of the friggin' highway. A killer.
Okay, so I'm finally heading into Jaén, into my hotel. It's been about, what's it been, 10 hours, just over 10 hours. So it's been a pretty, not the ideal ride. Had about 9 hours of riding, which is too much. And I'm a bit of a broken man at the moment. Because it was hard riding too. It's just not freeway riding, which you can do pretty easy. But this is a pretty, it's in a pretty setting, but it's a pretty dirty city. I hope the hotel's all right. But you know, I conquered a pretty, really, you know, probably the toughest stretch of dirt I've ever ridden on, and I'm pretty happy about that. That's a noisy place too, isn't it? So yeah, apparently it's got a swimming pool. My luck with swimming pools is that they're under construction every time I get somewhere that's got a swimming pool. So we'll see. Taken off in third, really clever. Luckily I gave it some juice, otherwise I would have definitely stalled it. Rules seem pretty opaque here as far as what you do, but it's a dirty city, like it's very dusty and I've got to get a bank, and I have not seen anything called a bank so far.
Okay guys, thanks very much. I just want to leave you with some of these photos of these kids that were great. Really made my day. Hope you enjoyed. Any questions or comments below. Thanks guys.